So I wanted to give my unrehearsed response to Biden's State of the Union from last night. And it was actually fairly decent in the sense that much of the things he said were not um, cringe inducing. So when he was talking about wanting to codify Roe v. Wade and pledging to veto a national abortion ban if the Republicans were to try and pass something like that, or um, cutting or otherwise gutting Medicare and Social Security. These were all things I really liked because they showed some strength on his part. But where you start to get into an issue is, and I don't know why Democrats are like this. I don't know why. During his speech, he starts to talk about wanting to work with Republicans on various issues, as Trump had worked with Democrats on the opioid crisis, for example. But when you have Republicans who don't agree with you on pretty much anything, and in some cases are so duplicitous as to shift their position to whatever is opposite of yours, what is the purpose or point of doing that? And I also said that, you know, I didn't agree with pretty much anything Trump said in his State of the Unions, but one of the things I liked about him was that he was very open about we when he said that Republicans will pass this, that, or the other, and that'll be it. He didn't say, "Oh, I want to work with Democrats. I want them to hear what they have to say." None of that, because he knew that by and large the Democrats did not agree with him, and this is a problem I have with the national parties. How you have these Republicans that are like very open about, this is what I want to do, and if you don't like it, oh well. And then these Democrats that are always extending this hand of cooperation, and I just don't understand the purpose behind it. If we know for a fact that pretty much any major thing you want to pass is going to be voted against by a majority of members of the opposite party, why work with them, or why even say you will? Now, what's interesting is that during his speech, he was um, interrupted at a couple of points when he mentioned immigration, and then there was the incident where Marjorie Taylor Greene screamed, "You're a liar," or "You lie," or something like that. And I was thinking back, and this was mentioned in an article I read from The Hill. I'm just not reading it for the sake of, not doing a regular format video. But I was thinking about how when Obama gave his first address to a joint session of Congress, and he was called a liar, or it might not have been the first one, but it was in his first year. It was like August, September of 2009. He where you had what was that, Joe Wilson from South Carolina, "You lie," and everyone was very critical of him and said, "Oh, how could he do this? The decorum. He's acting out. He is very rude." You know, back then that was seen as a weird or messed up thing to do, and for us to go in not even 20 years, in 14 years from this one singular congressman interrupted the president of the opposing party, "This is rude, this is unacceptable," to, "Oh yeah, a bunch of members just screamed and shouted as the president was talking, whatever, who cares." That's politics now. And I'm not even a person who really gets caught up on decorum because, like I said, we're talking about issues that affect people's lives. I really, under most circumstances, wouldn't even be raising this as something to discuss. I just find it interesting that we really, as far as office holders are concerned, and I guess maybe I should kind of preface it more by saying this. People have this thing about Congress where, in spite of them having approval ratings that are usually in the toilet, they try to hype the members up as the best and the brightest of Americans, the people who are most equipped to serve us, who are most equipped to fix and handle different problems, who are supposed to be examples for the rest of us to either aspire to or to otherwise see as being of some. They're elected officials, they're people who had to get a certain number of votes to be in the positions that they have. And it's funny that you'll see actual business meetings with nowhere near as many people in attendance, and people who disagree with each other, don't like what somebody else is saying, they don't have to worry about getting booed as they're talking. They don't have to worry about some person that's there shouting liar as they're detailing what plans they have for the future of the company. And that's what sticks out to me so much about this, because we try to keep these formalities of attire and you know, going in and voting on this and speaking in this manner, but in reality you're basically just watching a bunch of people in suits and gowns act like animals off the street. I mean, this is there's no point in having these joint sessions of Congress if the opposing party's members are just going to act like animals as the person who they don't like is saying things they don't like. They can do that on Twitter or some other, website. But that's all I'm getting at. I normally don't even care about decorum and, the ways to respect some other person. But I just think it's really funny that these are supposed to be the people that are at the top of the top, and they act like savages. Um, but my main thing here is I like the strength that Biden showed with saying he was going to veto various Republican proposals that I doubt they're going to propose, because I don't think Republicans are, at least when it comes to their leaders, savvy enough to not try putting something like, you had this stunt with Marjorie Taylor Greene where she tried to impeach Biden on his first day, but she knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. But the actual leaders like McCarthy or McConnell are very intelligent when it comes to, okay, I can't pass this now because I don't have enough votes to get it through. And actually, go through both chambers, which is why McConnell's legislative accomplishments really are nothing. He mostly just vetoes other things, and then also, if he gets something passed, usually a Supreme Court justice, but that's just because you don't need the House to do that. So Republicans are most likely not going to try passing, national abortion ban, and they're most certainly not going to bother with trying to do anything to Medicare or Social Security. Most of them know how unpopular trying to gut or take something out of those two programs would be. So he doesn't have to worry about that. But the other part of his speech I just kind of got a little annoyed with was when he mentioned the Tyree Nichols thing or incident. And it kind of follows this long line of instances where during a State of the Union, it's like I don't want to call it 15 minutes of fame, but basically there's like a trendy story that had to do with someone losing their life. And the Democrats, and sometimes Republicans too, because I know that Trump did this during his first joint session of Congress, where it was like the month after he took office and some service member got killed overseas and he brought his widow to the speech. I just thought it was tacky. But what I was annoyed by with Biden doing this with Nichols is that we know for a fact in like a month, maybe a year, nobody's going to be talking about that man anymore. I mean, after all, how many people still mention Floyd or Philando Castile or any of these other people that have had these awful things happen with the police? And really, my issue isn't so much with the idea of wanting reform to ensure that doesn't happen anymore, at least to lessen the chances of it. The problem I have is that Democrats try to pretend they care about minorities and these other ethnic groups that they're not part of. And the way they do this is by taking whatever trendy story is related to them or that they think is related to them and talking about it in some major speech to make it seem like they're going to do something, and then nothing changes. People forget who that person was. Some similar incident happens a few months or a year after that, and then the same cycle repeats itself. So really, I'm just tired of politicians using the deaths of various minorities and other people of color to I guess try to make themselves sound like they're going to do something. Because we discussed this before that and this isn't even just about that in particular, but a lot of the times Democrats have a chance to do something, they don't, because they're trying to get reelected, and they know that if they actually solve issues for people, they're not going to have anything to run on. This is why instead of codifying Roe v. Wade when they had a majority under Obama, they waited for the Supreme Court to overturn it to suddenly start talking about wanting to put it in the law. So it's just sad, you know. But like I said, the speech for the most part was okay. It was nothing special. Um, I don't really think he's that great at communicating his accomplishment, which is why his approval rating is getting lower and lower. But I do believe that if he actually campaigns and talks about things that affect people, and he's run against one of these crazy bastards, he'll have a good chance at getting reelected. Because I think he'll probably announce he's running maybe in like a month or 2 months. It's usually in like the early part of the year, like spring, you know, somewhere before the summer, like first half of the year, and it'll be fun to watch the Republicans were because I didn't even bother watching any of the responses. I read a little bit of Trump's where he said something about inflation and immigrant, and I was just rolling my eyes because it's, you know, I mean, it's like once you've heard one attack speech by him, you've heard them all.